In this video, we're going to take a brief look at a cosine graph. If you're looking at this video, I presume that you've already looked at a sine graph, and the cosine is very similar to the sine, just a little bit of a shift. So you may recall, if we looked at the basic sine graph, that went 0, 0, and then pi over 2, 1, pi 0, 3 pi over 2, negative 1, 2 pi, 0, and then we got our sine wave there. That was sine. So for cosine, we're just going to have a little shift of that, and I'm going to give you the table of values. I'm not going to go into too much detail about how we find this table. I'm just going to give it to you. That for cosine, when x is 0, and again we're just looking at y equals cosine x here. When x is 0, y is 1. When x is pi over 2, y is 0. When x is pi, y is negative 1. 3 pi over 2, and we get 0. And at 2 pi, we're back to 1. So again, it's these 5 points like we had with sine, but we're starting off at 1, and then we're doing this increment of pi over 2, pi over 2, pi over 2, right? So at pi over 2, we drop down to 0, and then at pi, we're down to negative 1, 3 pi over 2, back up to 0, and then at 2 pi, 1. All right, and then it'll continue through that cycle, infinitely to the right and infinitely to the left. So you can see how that's very similar to sine. And then again, I'll just briefly look at the variations that we could have on this. Let's take our basic cosine graph here, and let's just give ourselves a coefficient. So say I had, I don't know, 1/2 cosine x. So we're going to have the same graph, but the amplitude, how high and how low it goes, is just going to be half as much. So if I stick with this y scale of 1, then we're going to go 0, 1/2, pi over 2, 0, pi, negative 1/2, 3 pi over 2, 0, and 2 pi back up to 1/2. And we're going to have a cosine wave. So that's simple enough. Then we get into the more challenging variation, which you should have seen with sine, which is if I have a coefficient on the x. So let's say that I have, how about a 2? Cosine 2x. Just like with sine, we're going to look at our new period. So the period was 2 pi, and then to get the new period, we're going to divide by that number, the coefficient on x. So our new period is 2 pi divided by 2, which is pi. So we need to get through the cosine wave, the cycle of cosine, we need to get through that in pi units. So back down to my graph here, I could even keep this same scale of pi over 2. Let's mark off some of the others. So there's pi, and then if I kept going, there would be 3 pi over 2, but I don't need that. I just need pi because that is the period. The new period is pi. So I need to get through a cosine wave in pi units. And I'm going to break that up into 4 parts. So I'll start at 0, and I'm at 1. And then I need to get back up to pi, and go through a wave to get there. So I'm going to break it up into 4 parts. So the first part, I'm back at 0. The second part, I'm down at -1. The third part, I'm back at 0. And then we just connect and get the wave. So that's the variations of cosine.